Speak so people listen. 5 words. And I want you to really think about what those 5 words mean. Because there are two kinds of people in a room: the people who speak and the people who are heard. And those are not the same thing. You can speak without being heard. You can say words, complete sentences, technically communicate, and still feel like you are invisible. Like people are waiting for you to finish instead of actually listening. Like your ideas are going in one ear and out the other. Like the real you, the smart, capable, interesting person you are in your own language, just doesn't fully show up when you switch to English. That is not a small problem. That gap between speaking and being heard is one of the most painful things a non-native speaker experiences. And almost nobody talks about why it happens or how to fix it. This module is about closing that gap. Forever. By the time this lesson is over, you're going to understand something that most English learners never figure it out. Even after years of study, you're going to understand exactly how fluency actually works. Not the theory, not the motivation, the actual mechanics, the exact system, the thing that has been used by the most powerful communicators in history. And that is available to you starting today. Let's not waste another second. Let's get into it. I want to start by telling you something that changed how I think about language learning completely. There is a system, a simple path to fluency, and it's not new. It is not something someone invented last year. It is not a trending method on social media or an app that went viral. This system is ancient. People have been using it for thousands of years to become fluent in any language, faster than anything else ever discovered. And the most remarkable thing about it is this: every single person who has ever been remembered for how powerfully they communicated knew this system, used this system, built their entire ability on this system. Let me show you what I mean. Look at these figures on the screen. Alexander the Great, one of the most successful military and political leaders in history. He led armies across multiple continents. He communicated across dozens of cultures and languages. People who had never met him before would follow him into battle, not just because of his power, but because of how he spoke, how he connected, how he made people feel seen and understood even across language barriers. Socrates, a man who wrote nothing, not a single book, not a single essay. Everything we know about him came through the words of his students, because his ideas were so powerful, so clearly expressed, so persuasive that people remembered them and wrote them down for centuries after he was gone. He became immortal through speaking. Churchill, Prime Minister of Britain during World War II. When the bombs were falling on London, when people were terrified, when the whole world was watching to see if Britain would collapse, Churchill spoke. And what he said changed the course of human history. Not just what he said, how he said it, the rhythm, the certainty, the weight of every word. A man who turned the English language into a weapon against despair. Obama, a man who stood in front of crowds of thousands, in front of cameras, reaching millions, in rooms full of people who doubted him. And every single time, he spoke in a way that made people stop what they were doing and listen. Really listen. Not because of his title, because of how he used words. What do all of these people have in common? They all use the same system, the same ancient, simple, universally effective system for building fluency and communicating in a way that moves people. And in this module, I'm going to give you that system, all of it, so you can use it starting today. So if this system has existed for thousands of years, if it's being used by kings and philosophers and presidents, why don't more people know about it? Why are there millions of people right now who have been studying English for 5, 10, 15 years and still feel like it's not working? The answer is uncomfortable. And I'm going to tell you anyway, because you deserve the truth. The modern language learning industry, the apps, the courses, the flashcard systems, the random tutors on the internet, was built to make money, not to make you fluent. And the way you make the most money from language learners is to keep them learning, to keep them buying the next app, the next course, the next word pack, to make them feel like they are always almost there, but never quite. So, what did the industry do? It took the most comfortable, most passive, most non threatening forms of learning and it sold them as solutions. Anki flashcards, Duolingo streaks, grammar exercises, random 1 hour sessions with a teacher who talks about the weather for $10. These things feel like progress. They feel productive. You open the app, you complete the lesson, you get the green check mark, you feel good. But weeks later, months later, years later, you are in a real conversation and you freeze. And you wonder why. Because what you've been doing is not the system, it's the imitation of the system. It looks like learning, it feels like learning, but it doesn't produce fluency because it was never designed to. Wake up! I say that with love. You are not a beginner anymore. You know words, you know grammar, you can understand this entire lesson right now. The knowledge is there. What's missing is not more knowledge, it's the right system for turning that knowledge into real, confident, natural speech. And that system starts right now. Here's the thing that is going to reframe everything you thought you knew about language learning. 8 billion people on this planet already use this system every single day, including you. Public speakers use it, professionals use it, entrepreneurs use it, workers use it, moms use it, and babies use it too. Let me say that again. Babies use this system. Think about what a baby does when he learns to speak. Nobody gives it a grammar book. Nobody makes it do flashcard exercises. Nobody grades it on pronunciation or vocabulary size. A baby learns to speak by doing 3 things, over and over, every single day, for months and years, until one day it is completely fluent in a language it has never formally studied. Think about that. Completely fluent in a language with hundreds of thousands of words, with complex grammar, with idioms and expressions and cultural references. Fluent, without ever sitting in a classroom, without ever opening an app. How? The system. The same system that Socrates used, the same system that Churchill used, the same system that every fluent speaker of every language in the history of the world has used. And you use it too. You use it to learn your native language. You didn't study your way to fluency in your first language. You lived your way there. You used the system without even knowing it had a name. The only problem, is that when it came to English, someone convinced you to stop using the system and start studying instead. And studying is not the system. Studying is what you do to pass a test. The system is what you do to actually speak. So let's go back to the system, starting now. 3 things. That is all that stands between you and fluency. Not 30 things, not 100 things, 3 things. And if you do these 3 things consistently in the right order with real intention, fluency is not a question of if, it's a question of when. Let me give you all 3. Number 1, words and phrases to use. You need raw material. You need vocabulary, expressions, ideas, fuel for your speaking. You cannot speak about nothing. You need something in your head worth saying. This is the input phase. This is where you collect the material you're going to use. But here's what most people get wrong. They collect the material and never use it. They study words and never say them. They read grammar rules and they never apply them in a real sentence. Input without output is just storage. And storage doesn't make you fluent. Using what you stored does. Number 2, practice to learn and remember. This is the part that most people skip or do wrong. Practice doesn't mean studying more. Practice means using what you know. Speaking, producing, getting the words out of your head and into the air. Your brain does not remember what you read. It remembers what you do. It remembers what you said out loud. It remembers the sentence you struggled to complete and finally got right. It remembers the conversation that was hard and got easier. There's a concept in neuroscience called the production effect, When you say something out loud, your brain encodes it differently than when you just read it. The act of producing language, actually speaking it, creates stronger neural connections than any amount of passive study. Every time you speak, you are literally rewiring your brain for fluency. That is not a metaphor, that is biology. Number 3, feedback to fix mistakes. You cannot improve what you cannot see. And there are patterns in your speech right now, mistakes you make consistently, words you mispronounce, structures that don't quite work, that you cannot hear because you are too close to them. You need someone outside of your head to show you what you are missing. Feedback is not a criticism. Feedback is a mirror. It shows you exactly where your fluency is being built and exactly where it still has gaps. Without feedback, you might practice for years and keep improving on the things you are already good at, while the real issues stay hidden. With feedback, your progress compounds. Every correction makes the next correction smaller. Every piece of honest feedback accelerates the whole journey. Words, practice, feedback. Simple, but only if you actually do all three. Most people do one or two. The ones who become fluent do all three. Consistently, seriously, without shortcuts. I know what is happening in your brain right now. You're thinking, that's it? Really? It cannot be that simple. It is that simple. Words, phrases to use, practice to learn, and remember, feedback to fix mistakes. That's the whole system. That's everything. It has always been everything. Now, look at the bottom half of this slide. What is not in the system? Advanced grammar, not in the system. I want to be clear about this. Grammar is a tool. It helps you understand patterns. But native speakers don't think about grammar rules when they speak. They don't think in a conscious way. I need to use the past perfect progressive here. They just speak because they've spoken so much that the grammar became automatic. You don't get there by studying more grammar. You get there by speaking until grammar stops being something you think about and becomes something you just do. Duolingo. Not in the system. I'm not saying Duolingo is evil. I'm saying that a streak of cartoon exercises will not make you fluent. It will make you better at Duolingo. Fluency requires real language, in real contexts, with real stakes. An app cannot give you that. Google Translate, not in the system. In fact, Google Translate might be the single most dangerous tool for an intermediate English learner because it teaches your brain that translation is always available. It removes the need for your brain to struggle and find words on its own. And that struggle, that productive struggle of searching for the right word, it's exactly where fluency gets built. Every time you reach for Google Translate instead of pushing through, you are delaying your own fluency. The system is three things: words, practice, feedback. Everything else is noise. Start eliminating the noise. So now let's make the three things concrete. Let's turn them from concepts into actions, into things you can actually do today. Because knowing the system is not enough. You need to know exactly what the system looks like in practice, in your real life, with your real schedule, in your real situation. Thing number 1, words and phrases to use, becomes consume content. But not just any content, not Netflix, not TikTok, not short clips and viral videos. Educational long form content that teaches you something real, something that puts ideas in your head that are worth talking about, something that gives your brain vocabulary, structure, ways of thinking and expressing in English. When you consume, you are loading your gun. The content is the ammunition. And when you speak later, that ammunition is what you fire. The better the content you consume, the better the raw material you have for speaking. You cannot speak in an amazing way about ideas you haven't never encountered. But once you've consumed content that gave you real ideas, real expressions, real ways of framing thoughts, you will have something worth saying. Thing number 2, practice to learn and remember, becomes practice speaking. Out loud, not in your head, not reading in a silent way. Out loud, where your mouth has to move, Your voice has to work. Your brain has to find words in real time and put them in order and send them into the air as actual sound. Speaking out loud about what you consumed is the core engine of this entire system. It forces your brain to retrieve what it stored. It forces you to find the words you read and actually use them. It creates the neural pathways that make language automatic instead of something that you have to force. There's no substitute for this step. None. Speaking out loud is not optional. It is the whole point. Thing number 3. Feedback to fix mistakes become get feedback. From real people, from a coach, from yourself, by listening back to your recordings with honest ears. This is how you close the loop. Consume, speak, get feedback. Consume again with better awareness, speak again with corrections, get feedback again, around and around. And every loop, you improve. Now let me get even more specific because I don't want you to finish this lesson and think, okay, I understand the theory, and then not know what to actually do tomorrow morning. So let me be completely clear. Consume content to learn new phrases and words. What does that look like in practice? You open YouTube, you search for a video on a topic you care about, productivity, business, science, fitness, psychology, history, anything you are genuinely interested in. You pick a video that is at least 20 minutes long. You watch it with full attention, not while you are doing something else, not with your phone in your hand. You watch it like you are being paid to understand it. And as you watch it, you take notes. You write down new phrases. You write down ideas that surprised you. You write down expressions you want to be able to use yourself. That's consuming. That's step 1. And it takes 20 minutes. Practice speaking to use and remember them. What does that look like? You close the video, you open your phone or your computer camera, you look at your notes, and you talk. For 10 minutes, you explain what you just learned in English, out loud, in your own words. You teach it back to yourself. You say the ideas, you use the new phrases, you make sentences with the vocabulary you wrote down. This is not about being perfect. This is about being active. Your brain is retrieving, connecting, producing. This is where the learning actually happens, not during the watching, but during the speaking after the watching. Get feedback to improve. What does that look like? After you speak, you listen back. You notice where you hesitated, where you used a filler word instead of the right word, where a sentence didn't quite land right. You write down one thing to improve, and you bring that awareness into your next session. Consume, speak, feedback every single day. That is the system in practice. That is how you become fluent. Do you see it now? Look at Socrates. Really look at him. He consumed books, everything available to him. Philosophy, poetry, mathematics, science, politics. He consumed ideas every single day, consistently, with the hunger of someone who genuinely wanted to understand the world. That was his input. That was his raw material. Then he did something that most people of his time did not do. He went into the marketplace, the public square of Athens, and he spoke every day. He took the ideas he had consumed and brought them into conversation with real people. He didn't just think his thoughts privately. He said them out loud to real humans who could push back, who could challenge him, who could surprise him with a question he hadn't considered. That was his practice. That was his speaking. And the feedback he got from the people who challenged him, who argued with him, who forced him to clarity and sharpen and rethink. That feedback made him better. Every debate made him clearer. Every challenge made his thinking stronger. Every conversation was a lesson. Consumed books, shared wisdom by speaking, got feedback from people on his ideas. Consume, speak, feedback. The man who is considered one of the greatest communicators and thinkers in all human history used the exact same 3-step system I just taught you. Not a different system, not a more complicated system. The same system. And became fluent in a brilliant way, in an unforgettable way, historically fluent. The system works and it has always worked. The only variable is whether you use it. Now let's bring this into the present, into your world. Look at this guy. He's a professional. He works in an office. He has meetings, presentations, emails, clients. He has ambitions. He wants to grow in his career. He wants to be taken seriously internationally. He wants to communicate with people at the highest levels of his industry. And here's exactly how he uses the system. He consumes courses and podcasts in English on topics directly relevant to his work: business strategy, leadership, finance, communication. He listens to interviews with people who are where he wants to be. He reads articles and books in English that give him the vocabulary and frameworks of his industry at an international level. He is constantly loading his brain with high quality English input that is directly useful to him. Then he speaks in meetings with his team, in presentations to clients, in one on ones with his manager. He doesn't wait until his English is perfect. He speaks now with what he has, knowing that the act of speaking is what closes the gap between where he is and where he wants to be. Every meeting is a practice session. Every presentation is a feedback loop. Every difficult conversation he pushes himself to have in English is a step toward fluency. And the feedback comes from colleagues who tell him when something was not clear, from clients whose body language tells him more than their words, from his own ears when he listens back to a recorded call and notices patterns he couldn't hear in the moment, consumed courses and podcasts, spoke in meetings with his team, got feedback from people on his ideas. Same system 2000 years after Socrates. In a completely different world, same outcome. Fluency, career growth, the ability to communicate at the level his intelligence and work ethic deserve. One more, and this is one of the most important ones to me personally. Look at this mom and her daughter. The daughter is learning English. She doesn't have a tutor. She doesn't have a course. She doesn't have an app or a flashcard system or a grammar book. What she has is something much more powerful than any of those things. She has a mom who loves her and a system that works. She consumes movies and her parents' speech every day in a completely natural way. She is absorbing English through things that matter to her, movies that make her feel something, the voice of someone she loves, content with emotional weight. Because your brain remembers language better when it's attached to emotion. When you feel something while consuming English, it goes deeper than when you just read a textbook. Then she starts speaking with her mom about random, ordinary things. What she's thinking about, what happened today, what a character in the movie did, why she's happy or sad or curious. She's not practicing English as a subject, she's using English as a tool for connection with the person she loves most. And her mom gives her feedback. Not harsh criticism, not a grade, just gentle, loving, honesty. That's not quite how you say it. Try this. That's it. Immediate feedback from a real person who cares. Feedback that is safe enough to receive and specific enough to actually help. Consumed movies and her parents' speech. Started speaking with her mom about random things. Her mom literally told her when she was making mistakes. And she will become fluent. Not maybe, not eventually if everything goes right. She will become fluent because the system always produces fluency when you follow it. It has never once failed in the entire history of human language learning. The question is never whether the system works. The question is always whether you trust it enough to actually use it. And now let me show you my own story through the same lens, because I want you to see that I didn't use some magical shortcut. I didn't have some special talent. I used the system, the exact same system. I was a Brazilian guy who was terrified of speaking English. I knew words, I knew grammar, I had studied for years. But when the moment came to actually speak, I froze. I translated. I hesitated. I felt small. So what changed? I started consuming lots of videos on YouTube in English on topics I genuinely cared about. Not just language learning videos, videos about business, about psychology, about success, about people who had built something from nothing. Things that made me think, things that gave me ideas worth talking about. Then I started speaking with myself first, because starting with yourself is the lowest stakes place to begin. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I would sit in my room in Brazil and talk out loud about what I had just watched. explaining ideas, summarizing arguments, asking myself questions, and answering them alone in English out loud every single day. Then I started speaking with other people, friends, strangers online, anyone who would practice with me. And then I did something that terrified me. I started recording YouTube videos in English, publicly, where anyone could watch and where every mistake was visible and permanent. That was the moment everything accelerated, because the stakes were real, because the feedback was immediate and honest. Comments pointing out mistakes, my own discomfort watching myself and hearing what I actually sounded like. The gap between how I thought I sounded and how I actually sounded. That gap became my curriculum. I learned more from my own videos than from any course I ever took. I consumed lots of videos on YouTube, then started speaking with myself and other people. I recorded a lot of videos on YouTube in English. Then, me and other people helped me correct my mistakes. Same system, same outcome, fluency. And with that fluency, 2 international businesses, a YouTube channel, this community, and a life that I built through the power of being able to communicate in English. Not talent, the system. So, what does this look like for you? Specifically, in your life, with your schedule, with your goals. Here's the best approach. And I say best not because it sounds good, but because it is the approach that every single person I have coached to fluency has used in some form. Step 1, consume educational videos and courses. Not entertainment, not short clips, educational content, things that teach you something real in English, that you actually care about. The topic matters. When you are genuinely interested in what you are consuming, your brain pays closer attention, it stores more, and gives you more to speak about afterwards. Pick topics that connect to your life, your career, your passions. Make English the vehicle for learning things you actually want to know. And consume every day. Not when you feel like it, every day. Because fluency is built through consistency, not intensity. 10 minutes every day beats 3 hours on the weekend, every time without exception. Step 2, share the ideas you learned by speaking with yourself and with others. Right after consuming, speak. Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait until you feel ready. The connection between what you just consumed and what you're about to say is strongest immediately after watching. Use that window. Open your mouth and speak about what you just learned. And if you can speak with another person, even better. A practice partner, someone from this community, a friend who's also learning. Real conversations with real humans add a layer of unpredictability and genuine communication that solo practice cannot replicate. Aim for both. Practice alone to build the habit, practice with people to build the fluency. Step 3, get feedback from your intuition, other people, and an English teacher. All 3 sources. Your intuition gets sharper over time. You start to feel when something is off before anyone tells you. Other people give you the outside perspective you cannot give yourself. Teachers and coaches give you the systematic analysis that identifies patterns you and other people might both miss. Use all 3 every single day, without hesitation. Feedback is a gift. Every connection is the system, working exactly as it should. Consume, speak, feedback. And become fluent the same way every fluent person who ever lived became fluent. I want to say this slowly, clearly, so it lives in your mind from this day forward. This is the universal key to fluency. Universal, meaning it works for every person, every nationality, every age, every level, every language. There is not a single documented case of a human being becoming truly fluent in a language without using the system in some form. Not one. Consume, speak, get feedback. This is how you go from being someone who studies English to someone who speaks English. That is the gap between the two. That is the whole bridge. Fluency is not hard. Fluency is not complicated. Fluency is not reserved for people with a special gift for languages, or people who moved abroad, or people who had better teachers, or more time, or more money. Fluency is the natural result of consistently doing 3 specific things. That's all it is. A result, a predictable, reliable, guaranteed result of a process. The same process that has produced every fluent speaker of every language throughout all of the human history. The only reason it has taken you this long, the only reason is that you were following the wrong process. Not because you were not smart enough, not because you didn't work hard enough, because you were giving the wrong map. You now have the right map. Consume, speak, get feedback. Use it. Before you go out and apply this system, I need to give you a critical correction. Because if I don't say this now, most of you are going to go apply this system in the wrong order. And the wrong order produces dramatically worse results than the right order. Most people hear consume, speak, get feedback. And they think, okay, first I will consume. I'll watch my YouTube video in the morning. Then later in the day, I will speak. That sounds logical. That sounds reasonable. That is wrong. Here's what I actually call this system. Speak, feedback, consume. And the reason is biology, not preference. Your brain is most sharp in the morning. This is not a motivational statement. This is neuroscience. Your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for language production, complex thinking, creativity, and executive function, operates at peak capacity in the first 1 to 3 hours after you wake up. This is where you have the most cognitive energy available for producing language, not just receiving it. If you use that window to consume, to passively watch videos, listen to podcasts, read articles, you are spending your most valuable mental resource on your easiest task. Consuming is relatively effortless. Your brain can absorb input even when it's tired, but producing language, speaking fluently, finding the right words, constructing clear sentences under the pressure of real communication, that requires a fresh, fully powered brain. And then what happens? You consume for an hour in the morning. Your mental energy starts to drain from a full day of work and life. And by the evening, when you finally sit down to practice speaking, you are exhausted. Your brain is running on empty. The words don't come easily. The practice feels hard and frustrating. And you wonder why. It's not your English, it's your schedule. Speak first every morning before you consume anything, before you check your phone, before you watch YouTube, before you open any app. Speak out loud in English. For at least 10 minutes, use your freshest, sharpest mental energy for your most important task. Then consume. After you have spoken, in the afternoon or evening when your brain is winding down and it is in better shape for receiving that producing. Speak first, consume second. This one change alone, this one simple reordering will accelerate your progress more than almost anything else I could tell you. Look at this image. This is what the trap looks like. 8 a.m., the person wakes up fresh, rested, brain fully charged, mental energy at maximum, and what they do with that energy, they sit down and consume YouTube, Netflix, a podcast, whatever it is. They take their sharpest hours and spend them on the most passive activity in their day. Then life happens, work, responsibilities, conversations, decisions, mental energy draining hour by hour. 8 p.m., the same person, exhausted, brain with almost no energy. And now they decide to practice speaking. They try to produce language. They try to find words, constructed sentences, speak clearly and with confidence. And it's hard. It feels like pushing through mud. And they think, my English is so bad. Why is this so hard? Your English is not bad. Your timing is wrong. You gave your best energy to consuming, the easy thing. And you saved your worst energy for speaking, the hard thing. And then you blamed your English for the result. I want you to feel how backward this is. Imagine a professional athlete who rests all day and then tries to train at midnight when they are exhausted, and then wonders why they cannot perform at their best. The performance is not the problem, the schedule is. I know this might be describing what you've been doing for months or years, and I want you to know it's not your fault. Nobody told you, nobody showed you the trap, but now you see it. So let's look at what the right version looks like. This right here. This is what a winning day looks like. 8 a.m., fresh brain, maximum mental energy. What do? You speak. You open your mouth and you speak in English. For 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you talk about what you learned yesterday. You teach it back to yourself. You think out loud about your ideas. You describe your morning. You narrate your thoughts. It doesn't matter exactly what you say. What matters is that your freshest, most powerful brain is being used for your most important task. And here's what happens when you do this consistently. When you speak first thing in the morning, every morning, your brain starts to warm up faster. The English comes more easily as the day goes on because you've already activated it. Like a magician who practices scales before a performance, the practice in the morning primes your brain for English in every interaction that follows throughout the day. Then, in the evening, when you are winding down, you consume. You watch an educational video, you listen to a great podcast, you read a chapter in English. Your tired brain is actually very good at this, receiving input, absorbing ideas, letting language wash over it. And as you consume, you take notes. You write down the ideas and phrases you want to use tomorrow morning when you speak. Do you see the loop? You speak from what you consumed yesterday. You consume to give you content about what you're going to speak tomorrow. Every morning builds on every evening. Every evening builds on every morning. The system feeds itself, and every single day you improve. Speak in the morning when you are fresh, consume in the evening when you are tired. This is a win every single day. I know exactly what question just appeared in your brain. Okay, João, I get it. Speak in the morning, but what do I speak about? I open my mouth and my mind goes blank. I don't know where to start. I have nothing to say. I've heard this from hundreds of students, and I have a very specific answer that will solve this problem completely. Speak about what you learned from the video you consumed the day before. That's it. That's the complete answer. And here's why it works so well. When you consume educational content with your notes open, when you are actively writing down ideas, phrases, key points, you are automatically building your speaking material for the next morning. You are not creating two separate tasks. You are doing one task that feeds the other. Consuming and speaking become one continuous loop. So here's exactly what you do. Last night, you watched an educational video. You took notes. This morning, you open those notes and you answer two questions out loud. Question 1. What was the best idea I learned from that video? Say the answers out loud, in English, with real words, real sentences, real explanation, not just a summary. Talk about it, explore it, ask yourself follow-up questions. Why did that idea hit me? How does it connect to something I already knew? What would I do differently because of it? Question 2. What can I apply from that video today and how? This question is powerful because it forces you to make the content personal. You are not just reciting information, you are connecting it to your real life. And when language is connected to your real life experience, your brain holds onto it differently. It becomes yours, not something you memorized, something you actually think. 2 questions, speaking from your notes, that's your morning routine. And I promise you, if you do this every single day, within 2 weeks, you'll be amazed at how much more easily the words come. Take notes when you consume, speak from those notes the next morning. That's the loop. That's everything. The third piece of the system is feedback. And I know the question. Where do I even get feedback? I don't have a coach. I don't have a teacher available every day. I'm practicing alone most of the time. Who is going to tell me what's wrong? More people than you think, and more sources than you realize. Let me give you 3. Source 1. Ask people around you. This can be anyone who speaks better English than you do. A friend, a colleague, a family member, someone from this community. And here's the exact question to ask them. I want you to write this down. How would you rate my speech from 1 to 10? And why? That and why is everything. The number alone is useless. The why, the specific reason behind the rating, is where the actual feedback lives. You spoke clearly, but you hesitated a lot between sentences. Your pronunciation is great, but you used the wrong preposition there. That specific, honest information is what you take into your next practice session and work on. Without it, and why, you have nothing actionable. With it, you have a clear target. Source 2, ask yourself. This one is underused and underrated. After every speaking session, whether it's a recording, a conversation, or a presentation, sit quietly for 2 minutes and ask yourself, what can I improve next time when I speak? Not what did I do wrong? What can I improve? The framing matters in a big way. What did I do wrong puts you in a shame mindset. You start feeling bad about the past. What can I improve? Puts you in a growth mindset. You start planning for the future. Same information, completely different relationship to it. And listen back to your recordings. I know this is uncomfortable. The sound of your own voice is one of the most universally uncomfortable experiences for language learners. Do it anyway. You will hear things, filler words, unclear pronunciation, run on sentences, wrong vocabulary choices that you never noticed while you were speaking. That discomfort is information. Use it. Source 3. Ask a teacher or coach. The question to ask is, what feedback can you give me on how I speak? Not correct my grammar, not tell me what I did wrong. How do I speak? My rhythm, my confidence, my word choices, my clarity, my ability to express complex ideas simply. A good coach looks at patterns, not just individual mistakes. They can see the systematic issues that a single correction from a friend will miss. 3 sources, use all 3. Rotate between them. The more diverse your feedback sources, the more complete your picture of your own speaking, and the faster the gaps close. Last question before we bring everything together. And this one is more important than it sounds because I see people get this wrong consistently. What content should I consume? The wrong answer? Anything in English. The right answer? Only educational long form content, 20 minutes or more. Nothing else. Let me explain why this rule is so specific. Short content, reels, TikToks, clips, quick YouTube videos gives your brain English in fragments, disconnected pieces, small bites with no structure, no sustained argument, no developed ideas. Your brain can process this easily, which means it doesn't have to work very hard. And language that doesn't make your brain work doesn't build fluency. It entertains you. That is different. Long form content, a 20-minute video, a 30-minute podcast, a chapter of a book, requires your brain to sustain attention, to follow a developing argument, to hold multiple ideas in mind and see how they connect, to absorb not just individual words, but how ideas flow into each other, how a skilled communicator builds a point, how language works at a structural level across an extended piece of communication. That structural observation, that unconscious learning of how to communicate across more than 30 seconds is what makes you a better speaker. You start to, in a conscious way, copy the rhythm, the flow, the organization of ideas you've heard in long form content. Your speaking starts to sound more developed, more structured, more like someone who has something real to say. Short content cannot give you this. Only long form can. This way, you can take notes and use them as talking points next day when you speak. So here are your options. Podcasts, real conversations between intelligent people on topics that matter to you. Books, in English, on subjects you genuinely want to understand. Courses, like this one, where someone is teaching you something over an extended period of time. Educational, long form, topics you care about every single day. This is the content prescription. Follow it. So let's bring everything together because everything I've taught you in this module comes down to this one slide. This is the fluency science. Not opinion, not motivation, science. The repeatable, variable, historically proven process by which every human being who has ever become fluent in a language has done so. No exceptions, no alternative routes, no shortcuts. Consume educational videos and books. Feed your brain with high-quality English input on topics that matter to you. Take notes, build your speaking material while you consume. Speak about them on camera, with others, with yourself in the morning. Use your freshest energy for your most important task. Take what went into your brain as input and get it out of your mouth as output. That transfer is where fluency lives. Get feedback on how you speak. From people, from yourself, from coaches. Close the loop. See your blind spots. Correct the patterns that you cannot see from inside your own head. Consume, speak, get feedback. Write those 3 words somewhere. You will see them every day. Put them on your wall. Put them in your phone. Put them somewhere that will remind you every morning before you do anything else what the work actually is. Because from this day forward, everything you do in English should fit into one of those 3 categories. If it doesn't give you the words to use or make your practice speaking or give you honest feedback, it is probably not moving the needle. and you can stop doing it. Consume, speak, feedback. 3 words, the entire game. 2 reminders. Say this out loud after me if you want them to stick. Reminder 1. Speak in the morning, not at night. I have explained the biology. I have explained why. But I'm saying it again because this is the thing people mess up most consistently. They know they should speak in the morning. They plan to speak in the morning. And then they check their phone, watch a quick video, just 5 minutes of something. And suddenly, an hour has passed and their mental energy is already dropping. Speak before you do anything else. Before your phone, before coffee, if you can manage it, before the day takes your brain somewhere else. Speak first every morning. Even if it is 5 minutes. Even if it is just talking to yourself about what you're going to do today. Even if the words feel slow and chunky and you hate the sound of your own voice. Do it. Especially on the days when it feels hard. Because those are the exact days when your brain is being pushed to build new pathways. Comfortable practice produces comfortable results. Uncomfortable practice produces growth. Reminder 2. Consume actively by taking notes. Passive consumption is entertainment. Active consumption is practice. The difference is a pen or a notes app on your phone. When you consume actively, when you write down key ideas, new phrases, things that surprised you or made you think, you are doing 3 things at once. You are paying deeper attention to the content. You are creating memory anchors that make the language stick, and you are building your speaking material for tomorrow morning. 3 benefits, 1 habit, it costs you almost nothing extra in time or effort. Without notes, you watch a video and remember maybe 20% of it by the next morning. With notes, you remember the specific ideas and phrases you captured, and you have something concrete to speak about. The notes are the bridge between consuming and speaking. Don't cross the bridge without them. Speak in the morning, consume actively with notes. 2 rules, follow both every day without exception. This is your action step, and I need you to hear this clearly. This is not optional homework. This is the system. Doing this today is not just completing a task. It is the first loop of the process that will make you fluent. The task takes 30 minutes. You have 30 minutes. I know you do. Here's exactly what to do. Step 1. Set aside 10 minutes to watch an educational video on YouTube. Pick a topic you actually care about, not a language learning video. A video about something you are genuinely interested in. Business, science, history, psychology, fitness, whatever makes you lean forward. Watch it with full attention. And as you watch, step 2, take 5 to 10 notes. Write down the best ideas. Write down phrases you want to be able to use. Write down anything that surprised you or made you think. You are building your speaking material right now. Step 3, grab your phone, open your camera or voice recorder, and step 4, speak for 10 minutes. Explain what you learned from the video. Walk through your notes like you're teaching someone else. Use your own words. Make it conversational. Don't read your notes. Use them as prompts and then speak freely. Struggle where you need to struggle. Find the words. Keep going. Do not stop when it feels uncomfortable, because that discomfort is the exact sensation of your brain building new fluency pathways. That feeling is progress. Step 5, when you're done, listen back to your recording. I know. But do it anyway. Listen all the way through and write down 3 things. 1 thing that sounded good, 1 thing that was unclear, and 1 thing that you want to improve next time. That is your self-feedback. That closes the loop. Consume, speak, feedback, done. In 30 minutes. Step 6, go to the post below this lesson and share your experience. What topic did you speak about? What felt easy? What was hard? What are you going to work on? Write it, post it, because writing it makes it real. Sharing it makes you accountable. And accountability is what separates the people who watch courses from the people who actually become fluent. 30 minutes, 6 steps today. Not when you feel ready, not after you have prepared more. Today, right now. Close this video, open YouTube, pick your video, take your notes, speak, listen back, post. Today is the day the system starts. Don't let it be tomorrow. Let me summarize everything we covered in this module. You'll learn that there's a system, ancient, universal, used by kings and philosophers, and presidents and babies, that has produced fluency in every language throughout all of human history. A system with 3 parts: consume, speak, get feedback. You learned that most of what the language learning industry sells as solutions, flashcard, apps, grammar exercises, random tutors talking about nothing, is not the system. It's the comfortable imitation of the system. And comfort produces comfort, not fluency. You saw the system in action through Socrates, through a professional, through a mom and her daughter, and through my own story. Same system, different people, different centuries, same outcome: fluency. You learn the right order. Speak first in the morning, when your brain's fresh, and consume second, in the evening, when your brain is in receiving mode. You learned what to speak about, the ideas from what you consumed the day before, answered through 2 specific questions. You learned how to get feedback from 3 different sources, and you learned what content to consume: educational, long form, 20 minutes or more, on topics you actually care about. Now you have 2 things to do. 1, consume actively, speak and give yourself feedback. 30 minutes, do it today, okay? 2, write how you went in the post below this lesson. Share your experience with the community. Because the community is not just a place to watch, it's a place to practice. And every time you post, you are practicing English with real people who are on the same journey. The system is yours now. So the only thing left to do is use it. If you just did the action step, if you consumed, spoke, listened back, and posted, I want you to sit with something for a moment. You just did what most people who say they want to learn English will never do. Not because they can't, because they didn't. Because they watched the lesson and thought, I would do it after. And later, never came. You did it now, today. You closed the loop. You went all the way through the system, not just in theory, but in practice, in real life, with your real voice. That is not a small thing. That is the whole game. The people who become fluent are exactly the people who do what you just did. Take what they learned in a lesson and immediately apply it in the real world before the day is over. Give yourself a moment to acknowledge that. Seriously, not as self-congratulation, as data, evidence that you are someone who does the work, evidence that fluency is not just something you want, it's something you are actively building, one practice session at a time. Now, Module 5 is called English is a Video Game. Play to win. And if this module gave you the science, the system, the mechanics, the understanding of what fluency actually works, Module 5 is going to give you something different. Something that might be even more important for a lot of people. Module 5 is going to make you want to practice, not feel like you have to, want to, because we are going to take everything you just learned and we're going to turn it into something that feels like playing a game you actually enjoy, where practice stops feeling like work and starts feeling like winning. Go post in the community, share your experience from today's action step, read what other members wrote, leave someone a comment, level up, literally. And then come back and watch Module 5. I see you there. Let's go.